Welcome back, everyone. The iPhone 13 just came out, so let's go and compare it against the iPhone SE 2 and see which one you should go and pick up. Now, I will tell you, if you have all the money in the world, getting the iPhone 13 is the better one without a doubt, but the iPhone SE 2 isn't that bad of a device, and they're both still being sold brand new. Now, if you want to pick up either one of these iPhones, I'll leave them both linked down in the description below. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, there is a little bit of a difference, as you guys can probably see. The iPhone SE 2 has a lot more bezel around it, but it does have that 4.7-inch IPS panel, which really isn't that bad, but it's just the bezel around it which doesn't look too good. Now with the iPhone 13, you have a much bigger 6.1-inch OLED panel, you have a notch, but you have very little bezel, as well as a flat design on the iPhone 13 too. So you're definitely getting a much more modern looking phone on the iPhone 13. The SE 2 still looks great, and one thing about these, they both feel kind of the same in the hand. The 13 is heavier, but you still have the same type of build quality, which is still good. Now, in terms of the side, you have, basically the aluminum frame, whatever this is, ringer switch, volume buttons, the whole 9 yards. And on the back, you have pretty much the same type of glass back as well. So like I mentioned, the build quality is fairly similar. It's not like you're going to go pick up an iPhone 13 and feel like the phone is way more premium than the iPhone SE 2 in my opinion. You have a single camera setup on the SE 2 with wireless charging right here. The iPhone 13 with a dual camera setup with wireless charging with MagSafe capability still looks good. Lightning port at the bottom, power button on the side, IP certification on both as well, and overall both phones are really good. They both feel fairly premium. Now, in terms of the longevity of both of these iPhones, specifically with how long they're going to last with software, the iPhone SE 2 is not going to probably last as long as the iPhone 13, and here's the reason being, they both have different chipsets, so even though Apple is still selling both of them brand new, the iPhone SE 2 has that A13 Bionic chip versus the A15 that just came out. So this is a newer phone and with a newer chipset by 2 years. So typically when that happens, this phone by far is probably going to outlast the iPhone SE 2, but the SE 2 is still a pretty good phone too, like I mentioned. This phone is still going to be supportive for the time being. It's definitely not perfect, but it probably is still going to be supported. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. So although the iPhone 13 is newer, you're really not going to notice too many differences in terms of software for at least like a couple more years now. So in terms of that covers it up in terms of the software. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both these iPhones. Now the iPhone SE 2, like I mentioned, has that Apple A13 Bionic chip inside of it with 3 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone 13 has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM. So let's go and see which one is the faster iPhone between both of these. Okay, there we go. Like I mentioned, all the apps are clear in the background. Let's get into it. Let's do phone calls, 3, 2, 1. And pretty much the same thing here. Music, which I don't even have here. Let's get into the app stores, 3, 2, 1. And I think the iPhone 13 a little bit faster. Scrolling through here, you can probably see around the same thing, not a big difference, but you can see just how much more information you're getting on the iPhone 13 because of that bigger panel. Let's get into camera, 3, 2, 1. Pretty much the same thing, we're just loading that up in the background. Photos, 3, 2, 1. Pretty much the same thing here too. Hopping out of this one, let's get into podcast, 3, 2, 1. And the 13 was faster to get into that panel. And as always, we have a bunch of these. Actually, I want to do clock 3, 2, 1. This is just one of my favorite apps to test, and the 13 I think was faster. Now let's get into some of these third-party applications between both these iPhones. So let's get into it. Let's do Fruit Ninja, 3, 2, 1. And I actually don't know which one is faster. They both kind of had some different panels that came up. Maybe the SE2 was faster there, to be honest. Let's do Facebook, 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 13 was faster here. Let's go and do Twitter, 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 13 again is the faster one there. Let's get into Stack, 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 13 definitely was far faster there. The iPhone SE2 was a little bit behind. Again, nothing super crazy, but I don't know why this game always freezes on like older. Oh, it must be the ad or something. Let's get into Thank You, 3, 2, 1. And you can see the iPhone 13 was faster. The iPhone SE2 a little bit behind, and I think that's how it's going to be probably for the rest of these apps. Snake vs. Blocks, 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 13 again was faster. Hopping out of this app, Netflix, 3, 2, 1. 13 again is faster. iPhone SE2 a little bit behind. Quizlet, 3, 2, 1. 13 again is a faster one. Hopping out of this one, Dropbox, 3, 2, I don't have it here. Bofa, I also don't have here, which is weird. Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. And you can see again the iPhone 13 is pretty much doing numbers around the SE2. Now, the SE2 is still a pretty fast device, but the iPhone 13 is definitely a consistently faster one for sure. Hopping out of this one, ended off with Snapchat 321. And definitely, without a doubt, the iPhone 13 was the faster one. So, definitely, if you're trying to get the faster iPhone between these two, the iPhone 13 is by far the one I would probably recommend getting. It is far faster. It's definitely the faster one between both of these. And that's a pretty cool thing. I mean, again, you want to spend more money. Like, I want the iPhone 13 to be faster. You're spending more money here. If the SE2 was faster, I'd be kind of concerned, to be honest. So, that covers it up here. Now, let's go and do a quick little camera comparison between both these devices. Now on the back, you have a dual camera setup on the iPhone 13, which looks great. The iPhone SE2 has a single camera setup and it's a wide angle lens. So they both can do 4K at 60 on the back. And the iPhone 13 does have that ultra wide sensor, which is nice. On the front though, there's a little bit of a difference. The iPhone 13 can actually do 4K at 60 on the front, where the iPhone SE2 can only do 1080p on the front. Now, both these iPhones pretty much have the same type of capability too, so portrait mode, all that good stuff. But the iPhone 13 has this new cinematic mode, which looks really cool. It is essentially like portrait mode for videos, and I'm a huge fan of it. I'm here for it. I think it's awesome. The SE2 doesn't have it, and definitely when I look at both, I think the iPhone 13 is by far the better camera. Now, like I mentioned, the SE2 is still a good camera. It's definitely not horrible. It's not bad. But when you do compare it against phones, even like an iPhone 11, this thing with that single lens, I'm not a humongous fan of it. It seems fairly outdated, especially even compared to the iPhone 13, which this camera isn't even as good as the iPhone 13 Pro. But this iPhone SE2 camera, 4K 60 on the back is great. 1080p on the front is kind of a letdown, but it is what it is, and there's nothing we can really do about it. But you still have things like portrait mode, which is really nice. Now, the 13 by far is the better camera here. You guys already know this. I mean, you can go ahead and get that ultra wide sensor. And like I mentioned, this camera isn't even as good as the iPhone 13 Pro, but it's still, a bit ahead of the iPhone SE2 to put it lightly. I mean, this thing 4K at 60 on the front and the back. You have that cinematic mode, which is really awesome. And you still have things like that ultra wide sensor, which is really nice. So when it comes down to it, I'm definitely a huge fan of the iPhone 13 camera, and I do like this more than the iPhone SE2 for sure. So now we make it to the end of the video, and to be honest, like I mentioned earlier, if you have an iPhone SE2, going to an iPhone 13 is a really good upgrade. You're getting a very solid upgrade for sure. You're getting a better looking panel, which looks really nice. You're getting, I guess, a smaller notch, which doesn't really matter. You're getting better camera setups, better battery life on this phone, longevity, more software updates potentially, faster phone, better performance, better RAM, the whole 9 yards. Like, this is a very good phone compared to the iPhone SE2. Now, the SE2, the main thing you have going for it is the price tag. Brand new, it's $400 compared to the $800 something here. But the iPhone SE2 is also much cheaper in the used market as well. So that's another pretty big advantage that you have going for this phone. But that doesn't mean it's perfect. The battery life isn't that great on this specific phone. I feel like, the cameras are good for the most part. The performance is good. It's an overall a good phone. The battery life is just one thing I'm not too much of a fan of here. The iPhone 13 is probably the winner, and that's pretty much how it kind of sum up these two devices, to be honest. If you guys, like I said, want to pick either one of these things up, links are down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section as well. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.